You're watching a Highwire Media podcast.
Hello, true crime fans, and welcome back to the True Crime Never Sleeps show. On this episode of Murder Monday, we dive into the murder of Jennifer Blagg and the disappearance of Abby Blagg. Before we do that, give me your thoughts on this case in the comments section below. And with that, let's dive right into today's episode. Our case this episode begins in Grand Junction, Colorado in the year 2001. The date is actually November 13th, 2001, which is only 3 days from now, or I should say the anniversary of it, when police get a 911 call from an urgent husband and father named Michael Blagg. He tells the 911 operator that he left for work early that morning and then throughout the day was trying to call his 34-year-old wife Jennifer and 6-year-old daughter Abby back at home to check in, but they never answered. While he was at work, he says that he finally decided to just leave work early and head home to figure out what was going on. When he walked through his house and called out for his family, no one answered. He made his way into the primary bedroom where he noticed there was blood all over the place. The operator asks, "Okay, well, have you checked your daughter's room for them?" And Michael says he had, that the state of the primary bedroom had alarmed him enough that he just immediately called 911. So he runs up to Abby's room and notices that her school clothes were still laid out waiting for her, but she had never put them on. His wife and daughter are not there, and at this point, he's worried that something bad has happened to them because of the blood all over his bedroom. He says to the 911 operator that he needs police and they need to get there quick. So when authorities arrive at the house, situated in a cul-de-sac, they double check it once again for any sign of missing Jennifer and Abby. But Michael was right. Neither are there. Police realize they have a missing mother and daughter on their hands. They discover a massive amount of blood in the primary bedroom. There was blood on the bed and the floor, but police actually do find it odd that although there is all that blood in the primary bedroom, there's no blood on the walls or in the hallways, not even drag marks. So this means whoever had blood in that room had not walked out of it because they would have left a trail. And whatever happened, they certainly do not believe that Jennifer and Abby did it willingly. They're missing, and based on the scene, they don't think that whatever has happened has gone down smoothly. Investigators begin luminoling, I don't know if that's even a word, but they begin spraying luminol and looking for the blood all over the house. That's when they discover small traces of blood in the family van. That was Jennifer's car, and it was kind of up in the driver's seat, just on pieces of the seat, very, very small. Then the other part of it was on the back of the van, but not in the trunk, just like on the back bumper, very small drops of blood. And they think, okay, why was there blood in the car? But it's sitting inside of the closed garage. The keys to the car were actually found on the dresser in the primary bedroom, and they were laying next to Jennifer's purse, where all the contents were actually spilled out on the dresser. Her jewelry box was also empty and on the floor. But these signs of maybe burglary seem off to the detectives immediately. Why take jewelry and some cash out of Jennifer's wallet, then also take Jennifer and Abby? This episode is sponsored by NordVPN, the fastest, most reliable way to stay safe online. Let's be honest, the internet isn't exactly a safe neighborhood anymore. Between hackers, data leaks, and companies tracking everything you do online, protecting yourself is no longer an option. That's why I use NordVPN. NordVPN keeps your data encrypted and your identity private with next generation security. So whether you're on public Wi-Fi, traveling, or working from home, your information stays yours. Think of it as your own digital security guard, always on duty. And with over 6,000 servers in 60 plus countries, you can connect anywhere in the world with a single click. Want to stream shows from another country or access websites that are blocked in your region? Easy. NordVPN makes it happen instantly. I use it personally when I'm researching true crime cases and need to access archived or international sources. Keeps my work secure and my connection private. So here's the deal. Use the link in the description today, and at checkout, get a huge discount on a 2-year plan plus 3 extra months free. That's 77% off a 2-year plan with 3 extra free months. It's an incredible offer for complete digital protection. Don't wait until your data ends up in the wrong hands. Stay safe, stay private, and stay secure with NordVPN, because your digital life deserves protection. Now, let's get back to our episode. I don't know if it's a statistic that exists or not, but I wonder like how many burglaries are there that end up in murder or just end up like in a killing or a violent act? Because my gut says honestly, the majority probably aren't. I mean, I'd like to assume, but I assume that most are in and out. I could be wrong though. Or possibly no one's home in the house, or maybe they're just sleeping and they don't hear anything. But even if there are people at home, like how many burglars actually want to hurt the people? Because I mean, that just draws even more attention. Because I know I lived at one house. We left the garage door open. We actually got robbed, but they didn't even go through the house. They just hit the garage. So it's like I think they just want to go in and out. If the motive was purely burglary, you would hit a house where you don't have to injure or kidnap someone. Not to mention, there were still other valuables left in the house. So if this was a burglary, all they took was the cash and the jewelry. Why leave computers? Why leave the TV? It's 2001. TVs are a lot more expensive than they are right now. So the burglary motive just didn't make sense to the police. And then investigators also find it odd there really isn't any sign of a struggle in the house. There was just the blood in the bed and on the floor, but no apparent signs of a fight. It almost felt like whatever had happened in the bedroom was more of a hit, like they just went in and did it. There was no fighting, no struggle, nothing. With everything they discovered in immediate response to the disappearance of Jennifer and Abby, police realized that a deep dive into Michael and Jennifer's past might actually lead them to the truth. That's where they have to start, so that's where we begin this story. Both Jennifer and Michael were active, born again Christians at the time of the incident, and it had really always been their whole lives. Jennifer grew up in an extremely religious house, and her faith was a major part of her life. It was definitely one of the main priorities. Jennifer studied business at San Diego National University, and it was during those college years that she met Michael at a party. 25-year-old Michael was also a decorated helicopter pilot in the U.S. Navy, and at the time was stationed in San Diego, which is how they both ended up there. Michael and Jennifer shared the importance of their faith, and this was something that they were each looking for in a significant other. Because of that, they hit it off right away. According to Jennifer's friend Eddie Milson, Jennifer admired that Michael was willing to take charge, look after her, protect her, and really, she trusted him as a possible husband. She saw him as a husband material. And according to both of their families, who they were each close with, Michael and Jennifer fell in love fast. To everyone else, it looked like a very pure form of love. By 1991, they were married. Michael eventually went on to retire from the Navy, became an engineer, and the couple relocated to Simpsonville, South Carolina. Once in South Carolina, the couple welcomed their first child into the world, a baby girl named Abby. Abby was the light of their life and their grandparents' lives as well. I just said this, but all the families were very close. They all got along. There were big family dinners. They saw each other all the time. When you hear Jennifer's family members talk about her disappearance in interviews, they're just so loving and sweet. Like you can tell they were very close family. Jennifer actually loved Simpsonville and loved raising Abby there. The Blaggs were really establishing a life for themselves as a family, finding a community through their church, where they also made a lot of friends. At church, as they were establishing his life and making new friends, Jennifer taught women's Bible study, and Michael also moved into a co-teaching position at a Bible school, according to Oxygen.com. For the family, life felt like it was really falling together for them. But almost as soon as things had really settled down, Michael decided to take another job as operations manager at the Amtech Dixon Company. And this time, it was in Grand Junction, Colorado. Jennifer did not want to leave South Carolina. She told friends that she was dreading the move. She loved her life with her baby there, but she knew that part of being a dutiful wife was to follow Michael to Colorado for his new job, and so she did. Soon after the move, Jennifer called her friends back home and told them how hard it had been, that she missed them. She missed her life, she missed South Carolina, but she always ended the conversation on a high note, stating that she would try to make the best of the situation. Michael and Jennifer found another new church in Grand Junction and tried their best to fit in and establish life once again. By all accounts, they did. Their new reverend described the Blagg family as the ideal family, friendly couple, happy marriage. If anyone who knew them had to pick a couple that something bad would happen to, it would never have been the Blaggs. But you feel like this is what everyone says, right? I don't even know if it was their fault or what happened. And I think something interesting about that, and it's something that we can all take note of, which is why we listen to these cases and try to prepare ourselves the best we can. It's because you never hear a victim say, "Oh, I thought this would happen to me." It's always, you never think. You always think it's going to happen to someone else. You never think it's going to happen to you. But this is the world we live in. Evil exists everywhere. It's the same thing with kidnappings or stuff like that. Everyone's like, well, I don't think it'll happen to me. And it's like, yeah, I hope not, but you should always be prepared. Neither did anyone else. You just never know, right? So, after figuring out the background that we just discussed, obviously police immediately look into Michael for his wife's disappearance. Always, the husband's always the first suspect, but Michael insists he has no idea what happened. Michael explained to police in his first interview, which lasted over 5 hours, that he got up that morning, left for work early, and everything was fine. Jennifer and Abby were still asleep when he left, and that's just like any other day. They called his work, and he was there all day long. So if the crime happened when he said it happened, he has an alibi. So on the 911 call, he's obviously distraught. He's panicked, his voice is shaky, but he's not overly wailing or bawling his eyes out. He just sounds urgent and rushed, and it sounds authentic. Then to police, he seemed a little closed off in the interview. But if that was me, I'd surely be in shock. And honestly, I don't love the whole, let's judge someone by how they act in the face of trauma. Because if this is true and his wife and daughter are really missing, who are you to judge how he's acting? He's probably just trying to get through it second by second, trying to survive. Me personally, I think, since I'm not married to the person that disappeared, if it was just like a parent or something of mine and disappeared, I'd probably be shocked, but I'd probably just go back to like trying to live life how I normally do it and just maybe just watch TV or something. Because at a certain point, I think you can't really do much. Like they're missing, and I didn't do it, so I don't know where they're gonna be. So I might as well just sit back and let whoever go search for them. But I digress. So he tells police that he did typically call his wife multiple times throughout the day to check in on her. But on that specific November day, Jennifer did not pick up any of the calls. He says he called at 7 a.m., left a friendly message, which police can hear, then again around 10 a.m., and left another message with a kind of playful, "Hey, where are you guys? Why haven't you called me back?" Then again around 12 p.m. with another message. And I kind of want to explain further about the tone in these messages because if I haven't set up the type of family dynamic that these people had, these messages really do a good job of showing it. When I say a very happy, friendly message, I mean like Brady Bunch overly happy. The most cheerful, upbeat person you've ever met. Like, think Ned Flanders, the one neighbor who's too happy all the time. That's how Michael sounded, almost too nice. His messages were like, "Hey guys, what's up? How you doing?" Very much that kind of energy. But the last message that Michael leaves his wife and daughter is around 3 p.m. This one is still light, his voice sounds upbeat, but there's definitely more of a serious, worried tone. It's more like, "Man, are you guys okay? I really hope everything's okay. I miss you guys. I love you guys. Why haven't you answered the phone? Hope everything's okay." It didn't sound fake because all the messages sounded that way, and according to everyone who knew them, that was just the kind of couple they were. They were that TV show perfect couple. But police are kind of curious as to why in that last message he would immediately jump to the conclusion that something might have happened to them, and also why was he calling them so many times? Were those calls to set up an alibi? Why call 4 times during the day? Michael assures them that that's just what they did. They talked throughout the day while he was at work every single day. So for her not to answer multiple times was very alarming. He knew something was wrong when he walked up to the house and the front door was unlocked. He said, "I was already worried, but then when I got there and the front door was unlocked, that was gut-wrenching. She never left the front door unlocked." Police asked if there was anything wrong in their marriage. Obviously, one of the first questions they ask in a situation like this. Michael answered that they had their usual problems and fights, but really their marriage was solid. It was what all their friends and family said it was. He truly says he has no idea what happened, but that he just wants to find them. He tells police that he doesn't think anyone would have anything against his family enough to do something like this. And not only is his wife missing, his 6-year-old daughter, Abby, is also missing. A massive search begins that day for 34-year-old Jennifer and 6-year-old Abby. Friends and family are out walking miles, searching land areas for their loved ones. I think this is something we casually skim over often in these cases, and then a search begins. But when you think about it, they're spending their days literally walking through fields, woods, and roadsides, hoping to find their loved ones. If they're searching land, they're looking for a body. This isn't just hoping they're sitting somewhere lost. It's hoping they find something. You're always wondering in cases like this if the husband's a suspect, and yeah, it might be bad to say this early in the case, but the reason I want to say no is because I can't see him doing it to his kid. Maybe his wife, but his kid, that's different. I mean, it always is. We've seen it before, obviously. Dad killed his wife and kids. But statistically, it's the husband. So I do think it's weird that, as everyone else, immediate suspicious of the husband. And that's why I always say, if you didn't do it, get a lawyer. Because statistically, the spouse is the most dangerous person to a woman. Despite all the efforts of these searches, there's no sign of Jennifer or Abby. On one hand, that's good, you're not finding bodies, but on the other hand, it's terrifying because another day has gone by, still no one knows what happened. Michael and the family plead with the public via the media for help in bringing Jennifer and Abby home. Meanwhile, police are still combing through the Blagg house for clues. Any hint as to what could have happened. Because of the blood, they're treating it like a crime scene. And that's when they discover Jennifer's journal. One of the latest entries in Jennifer's journal was about a fight that she had with Michael. She didn't really detail what it was about, she just kind of noted that it happened. Now police confront Michael with this information. They're like, "You didn't tell us you guys had just previously been fighting." And he goes, "We haven't." "I have no idea what that means. We haven't gotten in a fight. I don't even know what that means." So police continue searching the home, and they eventually discover a note from Michael to Jennifer. Michael apologizes for a lot of things. It's very roundabout, but one of the things he says is, quote, "for letting the devil get a foothold in our marriage." Police are like, okay, what does that mean? Everyone keeps searching the house, and eventually they discover thousands of violent pornographic images on the computer. Now, I want to preface here, just because they found what they did on the computer does not make someone a murderer, obviously. But pornography, in this case, was against the Blagg's religion. They lived a very religious, faith-based lifestyle. That's that's what possibly could be the, quote, foothold that Michael was referring to in his letter to Jennifer. So police once again confront Michael with the letter and the porn, and he admits that he had struggled with pornography, which was against his religion. He had confessed this to Jennifer, and he says she was upset initially but forgave him. Then police ask, if she forgave you and you stopped, why is there still porn on the computer? And Michael goes, well, because Jennifer watched it too. He claims that because of both of their sheltered upbringings, once she found out about the porn, she offered to watch it with him. He says Jennifer was downloading these images for educational purposes so she could better serve him. And those were Michael's exact words. Now that statement comes off super weird, but, sex is personal. With consent, whatever works for them, works for them. But police are thinking, she was super religious, super against this, and suddenly she's all on board with it, trying to become a better wife. This isn't coming across. Police are getting the vibe that he's kind of blaming Jennifer for his problem. Because the note doesn't make it seem like she was okay with it. But now in the interview, he's like, oh no, she was fine with it. So, which is it? Police find it funny that during the 5-hour interview, none of this came up. I get it, it's personal, you probably don't want to talk about it, which the investigator said, but your wife's missing, your kid's missing, and you're a suspect. We should probably be talking about everything. And I know from the outside looking in, it's just porn, what's the big deal? But the police and the Jennifer's family, who said this would never have passed in their marriage, it was a big deal. It was a red flag. At this point, police decided they needed to dig deeper into who Michael really was. Not the surface level version everyone saw, but who he was behind closed doors. They soon discovered that the seemingly hands-on involved relationship, the calling 4 times a day, the constant checking in was actually more controlling than everyone knew. They got a hold of Jennifer's friends back in South Carolina and asked, "Hey, were there ever red flags? Did you ever feel weird about Michael?" They tell police that a couple of days before Jennifer and Abby went missing, Jennifer had actually called her friend Eddie and asked if she and Abby could come visit. But Jennifer clearly emphasized that Michael would not be coming with them. She didn't say why, but she emphasized it. This stood out to Eddie because Jennifer and Michael did everything together. It would have been the first time ever that she'd visit alone, and it was extremely weird. Jennifer loved the protection and stability that Michael gave her, but back in South Carolina, friends and family noticed that she was always a little anxious about doing her part in the relationship. She believed he provides and she serves. If friends were over close to the time Michael was due home from work, they noticed that Jennifer would start cleaning and rushing them out, saying it was important to make the home peaceful and stable for when Michael arrived. She'd say things like, "Oh, he's almost home. I need to have everything ready," almost paranoid about it. Jennifer also had to let Michael know where she was at all times and what she was doing. If she went out to dinner with friends, she would call and check in multiple times, telling him every detail. He also chose how she dressed, how she wore her hair. She couldn't even get her hair done without his approval. Her friends said it definitely wasn't alarming, but it was unlike any relationship they had ever seen. It felt a bit controlling from the outside, but Jennifer never seemed to push back, so they just accepted that it was how their relationship worked. Time goes on, and all the evidence in this case is as confusing as it is telling. Michael was at work all day with an alibi, so unless he heard his wife and daughter the night before and lied about them being asleep that morning, he couldn't have done it. The burglary doesn't make sense because it looks staged. The jewelry box and purse seemed intentionally scattered, and the amount of blood in the bed with no signs of struggle made it look like an ambush, like she was asleep when it happened. Police confirmed that the blood in the bedroom and the car was all Jennifer's. The biggest thing for police, though, is the van. Jennifer's blood is in the van, but the van is parked in the garage. That means a wounded or murdered Jennifer was in that van at some point and then removed. So someone moved the van, dumped the body, then returned the van to the garage. Would a stranger take that risk, use their car, then bring it back, close the garage, and walk through the house again? No, it's too risky. Because of that, police began leaning towards one theory. Michael killed Jennifer, possibly while she slept, then put her and Abby in the van, dumped them, returned home, staged the burglary, and went to work like nothing happened. Then he made those calls, knowing no one would answer. By this point, it's been 3 months. There have been no arrests, and really no major break in this case. No Jennifer, no Abby, and no one else police could point to. At this point, they really feel like Michael is their one and only suspect. Why? Because the crime scene is the family's own home, because Jennifer was likely ambushed while sleeping, there's blood in her van, which was parked in the garage, because no stranger would take the risk of returning a vehicle to the scene. You'd either leave it at the crime scene, or you'd leave it where you dumped it, or you'd just burn it. And although everyone hopes desperately that somehow Jennifer and Abby just ran away and are still alive, even their own family doesn't really believe that anymore. They don't think Jennifer and Abby are alive. Police bring Michael in multiple times over the next few weeks, hoping that with enough pressure he'll confess, but it doesn't happen. They're basically convinced it was him and only him. Now, I can't tell you exactly how hard they worked other theories because it's not fully detailed in documents that are available, but by 3 months in, police are almost certain it was Michael. After they bring him in for one final interview where they confront him and flat out say, "We think you did this," they don't have enough evidence to arrest him, so again they let him go. But right after the interrogation, police decide to return to the Blagg house to speak with him again. When they walk up to the front door, they hear running water coming from inside. They knock, they announce themselves, "Michael? Michael?" No answer. They kick the door in. That's when they discover Michael in the bathtub with his wrist cut. He had a photo of Abby and Jennifer next to him, along with a Bible and a suicide note. In the note, he denied having anything to do with what happened. He said he didn't kill them. Michael is rushed to the hospital. He survives. Michael's suicide attempt doesn't change the police stance on the case. Some people saw it as a sign of guilt. Others, including his family, saw it as despair, grief that he couldn't live in a world without his wife and child. But still, no new forensic evidence, no confession, no arrest. Michael is now no longer actively helping in the search or investigation. At first, he was involved, pleading through the media for their return. But now that he's basically suspect number one, his lawyers have advised him to stop participating. So he doesn't help anyone. And while the police understand that's what a lawyer would advise, the public doesn't see it that way. To them, it's suspicious. Why is her whole family out there crying on the news, putting up posters, and searching every day, while Michael is hiding at home? Public opinion shifts. Then, in the spring of 2002, a huge break. A coworker from Michael's job calls in a tip. They tell police, "I don't know if it means anything. I've debated calling because I don't want to involve myself in this mess. But it's been months, and I feel like it's time to say something." The tip? Michael took the trash out at work the day his wife and daughter disappeared. "I know that doesn't sound weird," the caller said, "but he's never done that before. He's an engineer. We have janitorial staff who does that. He doesn't take out the trash." They go on. "That day, he took out multiple bags, like from the break room and other areas. I just thought he was being helpful, but now knowing what we know, I think it's weird." They didn't think much of it at the time, but now with all the suspicion, that odd behavior feels a lot more meaningful. It had been 7 months since Jennifer and Abby disappeared. Police knew it was a long shot, but it was the only lead they had. They knew which landfill serviced the company Michael worked for, so they headed out there and met with the landfill operators to see if there's any chance, any way, they could figure out where trash from Michael's company ended up. Surprisingly, yes. The landfill workers are meticulous. They had records, maps, a layout of how the landfill was filled in over time. They created a grid system with sections labeled so they could track where trash was deposited, based on when Michael's workplace had their pickup and where that trash was dumped. The landfill crew worked with police to identify a small section where the trash from that specific day likely ended up. And that alone was a miracle. Then they began excavating. An excavator would pull out a section after section of trash. Dozens of workers and officers would sift through it by hand, bag by bag. Dead animals, rotten food, furniture, plastic. The smell was unbearable. The conditions were horrible. And this went on for 16 days. Each day they opened more bags. Each day they got more discouraged. Then, on day 16, they were gathered around a pit while the excavator dug through a new batch. As the scoop raised up out of the hole, something caught everyone's attention. A tent was hanging from the edge of the excavator's bucket. It looked like there was something inside it. And suddenly, the weight inside the tent, ripped the fabric open, and a human leg fell out and dropped back into the pit. They rushed out. Inside the torn tent, buried in the section of garbage from Michael's company's trash pickup, and the body of Jennifer Blagg. She had been shot in the head while sleeping in her bed. So after his arrest and their trial, it didn't take long for the jury to come to a decision. After hearing all the testimony, Michael's porn addiction, the suspiciously staged burglary, the note about letting the devil get a foothold, Jennifer's journal entry, the blood evidence, the tip from a coworker, and most importantly, Jennifer's body being found in the company trash, the jury was convinced. In just over 24 hours, they found Michael Blagg guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jennifer's family wept in the courtroom. Michael's family looked devastated, but he showed almost no emotion when the verdict was read. He would later be taken to prison, where he began serving his life sentence. Over the next 10 years, Michael filed multiple appeals, all of which were denied. But then, in 2014, something shocking happened. Michael's conviction was overturned. Why? Juror misconduct. One of the jurors who had helped convict Michael failed to disclose that she had been the victim of domestic violence about 10 years earlier. In a case involving alleged domestic abuse, this was a critical conflict of interest. Jurors are required to disclose such histories as it may impair their impartiality. And it wasn't a small error. The very judge who sentenced Michael to life was the one who overturned the conviction. The judge ruled that Michael had not received a fair trial. A new trial was granted, and the venue was moved to a different county. Since media coverage had completely saturated the original jurisdiction, By now, Michael was 55 years old. In February of 2018, Michael Blagg stood trial once again. This time, he took the stand in his own defense, which he hadn't done in the first trial. He talked about his love for Jennifer and Abby, about how much they meant to him, how he'd never hurt them. The defense leaned even harder on the idea that this was a wrongful accusation built on circumstantial evidence. They argued that Michael's family's life had been happy, that no one actually saw what happened, that no murder weapon had been recovered. But prosecutors weren't shaken. They had over 80 witnesses ready to testify. And they brought back all the same hard evidence: Jennifer's blood in the bedroom in the van, the staged burglary, the strange note about the devil, the computer with thousands of pornographic images, the fact that Jennifer's body was found in the exact section of trash from Michael's company, the co-worker's tip about Michael suddenly taking the trash out that day, and most damning, Jennifer had been shot in her sleep. It was an execution, not a struggle. And once again, the jury didn't take long. And again, they returned a guilty verdict. Michael Blagg was once again convicted of first-degree murder, sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And this time, there would be no third trial. The conviction stood. It was now 14 years after the first conviction. Justice, as slow and exhausting as it was, had finally caught up with Michael Blagg. To this day, the biggest heartbreak of this case is that Abby Blagg's body has never been found. It's the lingering wound for her family and for investigators. Police believe Abby's remains are still in the landfill. Because Michael disposed of both Jennifer and Abby at the same time, they believe Abby was in the trash compactor too. But despite weeks of searching, they never located her remains. The odds of finding a small child's body 7 months after disposal in a massive landfill the size of multiple football fields, it was almost impossible. Her body may have been destroyed by the machinery or decomposed beyond recognition, but in their hearts, everyone knows Abby is gone. She didn't run away. She didn't get kidnapped. She was murdered, likely by her father. There are still no clear answers about why Michael did this. There was no life insurance policy, no confirmed affair, no huge fight or explosive breakdown. Maybe Jennifer was preparing to leave him. Maybe he couldn't handle losing control of the perfect life he pretended to have. Maybe it was pride, shame, guilt. Or maybe, like in many domestic homicides, it came down to power and the fear of losing it. But what we do know is this: Jennifer Blagg was a deeply faithful, compassionate, and kind woman. She loved her daughter, her family, and her community. She was taken in the most brutal, unfair way, shot while she slept, discarded like garbage, and Abby was just 6 years old. Innocent, bright, loved. Her life was stolen before it really even began. So, on today's episode of Murder Monday, we remember Jennifer and Abby. Not just for how they died, but for who they were. Not for the violence that ended their lives, but for the love they gave while they were alive. And that is the story, The Loss at the Landfill. Let me know your thoughts on this case in the comment section below. And if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TCNS. And of course, you can follow us on all major social media platforms. The links are in the description. And of course, we'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, and that is NordVPN. Check them out today using the link in the description, and we will see you in our next episode. Take care.